We all have those formative movies that we watch at the perfect time in our lives and we just feel captivated by them. Well, I guess you could say that for me was the Before trilogy. I guess that's 3 movies, but we're gonna count them as one. A trilogy that I watched for the first time in my early 20s, and a trilogy that shaped how I view life and love and art and all those fancy things. And of course, that trilogy would be nothing without the performances of Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke. Aside from being one of my favorite actors, he's also just a supremely talented actor who's been nominated for 5 Academy Awards, and 2 of those specifically in acting. Every single time I watch him, I'm increasingly blown away by his performances, which leaves me asking the question, how has this guy never won an Oscar? Let's indulge. So let's take it back before my early 20s, before the Before trilogy, to my first experience watching Ethan Hawke. And like some of us, maybe even many of us here, it was in his little horror surge in the early 2010s with movies like The Purge and Sinister. Now, I was watching these movies as a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, probably way too young to be watching them, specifically a movie like Sinister. And I remember there was this moment when we were all in my buddy's basement watching this movie, and one of the classic jump scares happened, and I just went on a explicit-filled tirade, freaking out at this jump scare. Of course, his parents heard it, everyone heard it, and I wasn't really trying to hide it. But it was then and there that I realized that Ethan Hawke, this guy's awesome. So when you initially fall in love with an actor, it's only natural that you go check out their IMDb page, see what else they've been in. And up to that point, I was no cinephile. I had not seen any of his earlier stuff. Sinister and The Purge were really the only things I'd seen. So to me, he was just the horror guy, and he was really good at that. But it kind of bummed me out to see that I hadn't seen anything else with him, because naturally then I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, he must not be that big of an actor. And it wasn't until probably my early 20s that I realized how wrong I was. Here's the thing about Ethan Hawke. Through the 90s and maybe even a little bit before that, he played the same exact character. The pretentious asshole full of himself young adult. Whether it be Dead Poets Society or Reality Bites or even Before Sunrise. He was the 20-something who just had the whole world figured out. He was a little bit too introspective, a little bit pretentious. You watch him and you think, all right, dude, shut up. You don't know it all, but clearly you think you do. And he was really good at that role, even into a movie like Gattaca. But things began to change as he grew into himself and matured more as an actor. And of course, a big change would come in Training Day when he went head-to-head with Denzel in a performance that netted him an Oscar nomination, rightfully so. Because when I tell you, I actually didn't see this movie until like a couple months ago, and I lost my shit after it was done. First of all, because, fun fact, we all have those massive blind spots when it comes to big actors that we haven't seen movies of. I had never seen a Denzel movie. I know, I don't know how that had slipped by me. It was my first Denzel movie, and yet I walked away from it thinking Denzel was superb. Ethan Hawke was right there with him, and that was Ethan Hawke as a maybe 27, 28, 29 years old. But this is when the performances started piling to the point where it's like, oh, this guy is really good. He's got crazy command of his character, control of his craft, a calm but strong on-screen presence, especially because in 2001 you do Training Day, and then a couple of years later you return to the Before trilogy with Before Sunset. And Before Sunset, let's get into it a little bit. Before Sunset is arguably my favorite movie of all time. I'm a sucker for a good slice of life, dramatic, emotional, character-driven movie. And also, I am a sucker for Paris, all things Parisian, and all these things aligned. The stars aligned, and next thing you know, you have Richard Linklater, Julie Delpy, and Ethan Hawke coming together to make this absolute masterpiece. And Before Sunrise, the first movie, was also a masterpiece, but it was the second movie where I think it really found its stride a little bit. It had some of the whimsy and the magic of the first movie, but it also grounded a little bit of that in reality. A lot of times, some of our favorite movies can really depend on our mood or when we watch them, at what point we watch them in our life. And when I was watching these movies, I was just at a crux in my life that these were the exact movies I needed. And as someone who has always been so passionate about acting and filmmaking and all these things, Ethan Hawke was always one of those guys that I really, really looked up to, because outside of just the acting, to be a great actor means engaging yourself in art in a multitude of ways. And he has never, ever shied away from doing so.
I always encourage young people to be pretentious in a way, because if you do it with a sense of humor, if you have a sense of humor about yourself, it means you're aspiring to something.
He's so culturally engaged. He's a writer, he's written novels, he's a huge music head. He is aware and speaks on the world around him, and he's very, very informed, which I'm sure most actors are. But when you listen to him talk, he has this poetic tendency to him, which, you know, could rub some people the wrong way. I understand it. It's got shades of his early characters in them, a little bit of pretension, but this wisdom comes across as so genuine, and I think a huge part of that is why he's such a good actor, because he's able to see the world in so many different ways and so many different lights. He is what I believe to be a true artist should be. And the performances never stopped coming as he matured and grew into himself. Movies like Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, or a little bit later, Boyhood, another Richard Linklater collaboration, or First Reformed, movies where he cemented himself as a presence on screen. He no longer needed to prove to anyone how good of an actor he was. He was just doing these things for the fun of it. And between all of this, he was still doing movies like Sinister or movies like The Purge, movies that some actors or actresses might not even engage in because maybe their ego's a little bit too big. Maybe they think, I'm not doing a low-budget, small indie horror movie. And look what those movies became. They became staples of early 2010s horror. And I think Ethan Hawke has now officially gotten to the point of his career. It's all come full circle. He's doing what he wants to do. He's doing horror again in the Black Phone franchise. He's getting really, really weird in movies like The Northman with Eggers. And of course, he's still collaborating with Richard Linklater in Blue Moon, which has just netted him another Oscar nomination for Best Actor. Do I think he will win? No. Do I think this guy needs to get an Oscar sooner rather than later? Yes. Please. Yes. He is one of the most talented actors of his generation, and he's never been the leading man name. He's never been the big, poppy, wow, shining his name up on the theaters and the advertising kind of name. No, he's never been that, and I don't know if any of that made sense. But he's been a steady presence, and you know when it comes to a steady presence, you know they're going to provide you with the same thing they always do, a great performance. And that's what he does time and time again. He might not be flashy, but he is one of the greatest actors of the last 30 years. And maybe his Oscar won't come with Blue Moon, but please, someone, anyone, give this guy an Oscar in the next 5 to 10 years. He deserves it, because maybe whatever role he gets an Oscar for won't be the magnum opus, but he's put forth so many performances at this point that I don't care what he gets the Oscar for, he needs to be recognized as such. And yeah, I know plenty of people say, and maybe even I would say, what is an Oscar? The nomination is enough. Who needs this external validation? Of course he would say that, and of course that's the truth. But as he is one of my role models in acting, I want him to get it because he deserves it. Guys, this has been another Chich Files video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is that you do on this platform, that is YouTube. I will see you guys next time. Take care.